It's written, produced, and directed by Steve McQueen, who has made Hunger, 12 Years a Slave, Shame, Widows. It now makes Blitz. The DP on this was Yorick Lasso. The film stars Saoirse Ronan and Elliot Heffernan in his film debut. That's the kid. And it was distributed by Apple. Now, the film takes place, as the title suggests, in London during World War II, while the Nazis are flying over in their dumb planes and dropping their dumb bombs on the city. And what happens is, because everyone in London is just their life revolves around, at night trying to hide from these bombings. And so they try to go down in the subway, but some of the subways are off limits because they're not safe to be in, blah, blah, blah. And so what ends up happening, and I believe this is true, this really happened, is people would put their children, like their young children, in this case, this kid is probably like,
of course it's true.
That'd be so 10. Funny if it's not true.
Yeah.
Well, I just never had heard of this before. I've heard of the Blitz. I never heard the story before. So they would load up these kids on trains and basically try to get all the kids out of the city, because it's like, well, at least we can save our children or get them out of danger. And they would take them into the country to, like, converted boarding schools or whatever, or in hotels or hospitals or something, and keep them there until the Blitz is over. But this one kid, Saoirse Ronan's kid, jumps off this train and then goes on this wild sort of Dickensian journey, meeting all these characters high and low across London, the environs of London, in order to get back to his mother and reunite with his mother, because he says, no, we're doing this together. However this turns out, we're going to be together. Blitz, I did a couple things to say about Blitz, Joe, if you don't mind. A couple things, and I'm going to pass it over to you.
Movie podcast. You tell me.
Blitz is... it's an interesting movie because it is not remotely what I was expecting from this movie. I saw Steve McQueen's doing a London Blitz thing. I was expecting more of kind of a straightforward historical movie about the Blitz, because McQueen he's almost like Christopher Nolan in the way he sort of alternates with consistency. Because if you look at his movies, he does Hunger, very realistic historical movie about the
IRA prisons.
Yeah, Hunger Fast, with Fassbender in it. Then he does Shame. So he does sort of like modern neo-noir sort of thing. And then he does 12 Years a Slave, historical again, very gritty, realistic historical movie about slavery. Then he does Widows, again, like gritty neo-noir, modern city sort of thing, action.
Yeah, it is modern city.
And now he's doing Blitz, a historical movie again. So he sort of like alternates between these sort of modern, gritty things and then these historical movies. Yeah. So in that sense, it was pretty much, in line with his career. But the tone and the style of the movie really kind of surprised me. This was not what I was expecting from Blitz, because the way I would describe it is it almost feels like he did like his Steve McQueen's version of like a YA novel, or like a sort of a Disney movie, or it was sort of like when Martin Scorsese did Hugo. Like, this almost feels like one that Steve McQueen, like, he's like, I'm going to do a movie that my kids can watch, because even though it involves, violence and intense scenes around the Blitz and around the separation of this mother and son, it has a much sort of softer, almost whimsical tone than a lot of McQueen's movies. The camera kind of turns away from extreme violence. There's not a lot of graphic, or really any graphic violence in this movie. The camera constantly sort of turns away from those moments. And the story of this boy's journey through London to find his mother becomes really the spine of the movie, and the Blitz kind of just fades into the background as the context of the movie. And it's really about this boy's journey to reconnect with his mom, and it has a very, again, I'll say the word again, it has a very Dickensian feel. Just all these sort of colorful characters who are trying to survive during the Blitz, and he sort of meets them all on his way back to his mom. So it is tonally, it's very different from the movies that Steve McQueen's made before. Stylistically, too, and just in terms of the narrative, the story he wanted to tell here. It all took me off guard, but overall, I thought it was kind of a charming and interesting movie. Also a movie that I am kind of still thinking about. I don't know. I feel like I have to watch it again because I was so taken off guard by the nature of it. But, Joe, you were raving before about how much you love this movie, and this is perfect because I'm just dying to hear somebody sell me on Blitz, like hardcore sell me on Blitz. So what do you got to say about this movie?
I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to champion Blitz because I thought Blitz was a little better than great. I really thought Blitz was truly excellent. For First of all, Steve McQueen, I don't think he's underrated. I think everyone who knows he's one of the best. He's one of Britain's best. And he's one of like the world's best directors, in my opinion. And he sort of put together a little bit of a super team here with his production team and the camera team. And they put together a very gorgeously shot, beautifully designed, wonderfully paced, like powerful in a very mature, understated way, a very like tender, loving human story that focused on areas of World War II, which they've written 1 trillion books about and made a bajillion movies about. And 3 of them ever focus on the women of the war or focus on the people of color that lived in Britain, like from either whether they were Londoners or they lived from the outskirts of the empire, working in town. You just got a lot of different voices and different angles, but it wasn't pedantic, boring, like woke, the bad version we can see sometimes. Not like this is the good, beautiful, nuanced, personal, tender way. And he put together a freaking like who's who to make this absolutely gorgeous, mature, tender film. Yorick Lasso, the cinematographer, incredible. He worked on Little Women. He did the Claire Denis.
He did a Claire Denis movie.
High Life,
yeah.
Personal Shopper, I Am Love, one of the most beautiful Paolo Sorrentino movies ever. And Yorick and Steve McQueen work together so beautifully. And Yorick pulls so much from other Steve McQueen stuff, like that gorgeous, absolutely fucking gorgeous shot at the end of the water, and then you see the shadows of the bombers sort of in the water, and it really,
those interstitials were
so beautiful, really, and it really reminded me of like in 12 Years a Slave when he's looking off the back of the boat and those propellers are in the water, like hitting it over and over and over again. The way Steve McQueen can sort of like lull you into sleep, even though he's dragging you deeper and deeper into danger, technically in the story. And Yorick Lasso like picks that up and runs with it. And the two of them, they should teach like a workshop called Framing the Camera, and I'd pay like $1 million to take it, like these shots of like eyeballs with reflections and using Saoirse Ronan, who's wonderful in this so perfectly, and they're so precious about the little boy, but it's not manipulative in any way. This kid's not amazing. This kid's not anything. He's just a kid, but the kid's black, so he has a black mom, a black dad, and a white mom, and that's weird in World War II London because everyone's being racist and mean to the kid, and like, a version of like, who knew there was. Of course there were. You never think about that. During the Blitz, there were there were black children that were being attacked racistly while the Blitz was also happening. Well, I never thought about that.
That's a great point because that's also the one of the untold stories of World War II in general is like, because everyone wants the headline to be "We defeated the Nazis," but then it's like, well, there was a lot of black soldiers that did that, and then when they came back home, they couldn't use the GI Bill to buy houses. Yeah, but you guys could. So no, there's like, I think that is like an undertold story because everyone wants to focus on like, we beat the Nazis.
Yeah, it's very like it wasn't complicated. I thought the movie was actually patriotic, like in a British sense. Like Steve McQueen's a British guy. He's like, it's not like the Shawshank Redemption emotionally at the end. It's really kind of like mature and muted and human. But I definitely think that it's like a patriotic film, but also it has this, there's some like, there's some flies in the ointment for that patriotism that he explores in a really adult fashion. Adam Stockhausen did the production design. He does a lot of the Wes Anderson movies, Grand Budapest. He did 12 Years a Slave production design. Stockhausen did the new Indiana Jones movie, which looked gorgeous and stunk. And Anna Pinnock was the set decorator, worked on Tenet, Ready Player One, Fantastic Beasts.
This movie looks great.
Dude, it looks fucking gorgeous. Every shot is fucking spectacular.
Tell us what that budget was, Apple. We want to know the budget.
It had that been $180 million. Hans Zimmer's composition, understated. It's like all of these apps. Oh, and then Jacqueline Duran, the costume designer, Barbie, Matt Reeves,
like
the
Powerhouse.
These are the best people,
and
Steve McQueen is like the best director, and he knows like how to make these people sing. And the most beautiful thing about Blitz is like, it just is so advanced as like a story, and it's so restrained about something so literally, excuse me, bombastic and so impactful and so historically top of mind, this like famous thing. And also, I think that the performance Saoirse Ronan delivers is just as lovely, technically proficient and understated and brilliant as the rest of the team did. I thought she was awesome. And when the kid, spoiler alert, they find each other at the end. When the kid finds the mom at the end, it's not like, of course it's very impactful, but it's not. He just
it's sort of anticlimactic.
She finds him.
Yeah.
They hug each other.
Yeah.
The movie's they pull back. There's Blitz. It looks amazing. The movie's kind of over. Like, so interesting. Yeah. And when I think of Steve McQueen's contemporaries and this decade of World War II films and the submissions that we've gotten from our greats, I think this is like a very unique one that it will. I hope it grows in estimation. This is not Steve McQueen's worst movie. This is a much better movie than Widows, which has a great Daniel Kaluuya performance and not much else. And
Colin Farrell's great in that movie too.
A lot of great performances in that movie. Like Viola Davis great in that movie. Like,
great,
it's a lot of fun stuff, but like it's not a great, amazing movie. This movie, I think, is actually kind of special. It gives it basically is like a double bird to Sam Mendes.
Ooh,
he's like
I like that.
Watch me track
through
some fire, dickhead. And I don't need to like, make it a whole stunt. Like let me just watch. Like let me show you how to do this beautifully. Beats the piss out of 1917. I know that's World War I, not World War II. Dunkirk is Nolan doing Nolan stuff, and Dunkirk's incredible. I'm not saying it's better than Dunkirk. It's just like Dunkirk gives you, gives you like good old fashioned like white guy stuff, like really good. And I'm not saying Blitz is really good because finally we get to see a different story. I'm just saying like Blitz is really good because the story is brilliant. And it's personal in the sense that Steve McQueen's bringing what must be interesting to him, a black British man, into the film in such like an advanced way. I just thought the movie was like simple on its face, but actually really intricate with a lot of real prose, making every frame beautiful. And I think the reason that you might have walked away going, that was really good, but I don't love it, is because streaming diminishes the cinema.
That's interesting.
Like if we saw this on 70 millimeter at the Vista, you might be like, that was interesting and like gorgeous, and like, or if it had theatrical, I know it had a small theatrical release, but there's something about playing it on Apple Plus and playing it on your fucking computer or your TV or like having it in your house. It just reduces it, and this movie is going to get none of the like love that these theatrical release movies are going to get. This movie is going to get passed by. This movie, I think, is I haven't seen all the movies this year. This is a contender, a best picture for me. I just think I think it's too mature, understated, and again, a tender to be flashy enough for Oscar voters. It's very soft and feminine in that way, but my God, is it impactful. And as the Blitz, like, he never shows you the night of the bombs until the end, and it is fucking terrifying. He just I was just impressed. Deft touches.
Love it.
Deft touches.
All right. Joe says go see
Blitz.
What do you
think about do you hear what I'm saying?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I think you make a very impassioned and convincing argument for this movie.
And then finally,
I'll have to see it again. And I think you're right. I mean, I think it is part of it is this is a movie that should be seen in theaters. And that I think that definitely maybe diminished my experience of it on the first watch. I was also it was that thing where I was just not I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised, but surprised by the tone and style of the movie. And so you're kind of just like sort of acclimating to that for a little bit. And like I would definitely rewatch this.
I also think it's it's apropos in the sense that like children shouldn't have to endure the horrors of war.
Yeah.
No one should.
Yeah.
Children should not have to endure the horrors of war.
Yeah.
When they were all in the subway and the chain link fence was going to drown all of them.
Oh, God.
And then he had to like slip in under the thing and get out. And I was like, children currently are enduring war like, every day all over the world. Like the movie also has this thing of like, we got to end war.
Yeah, right.
Like, which is always like a good one to remember.
That
like,
classic common sense plea of like,
please,
do you see this?
Never do.
You want to do this again?
This is
you
not
want to do this
worth
again?
It.
Yeah.
Anyway, good movie.